linebackers loaded. I know you love Amari Gainer. I do too. He's a tremendous player. Kalen Deloach coming back. And then you got Tatum Bethune coming in from UCF.
Yep, I know Bethune was a big-time addition, not just like big-time addition, a much-needed addition more than anything for Florida State's defense. I mean, you know, you bring in Omar Graham, who I think is going to be a stud. I don't think it's going to be right away. This is a pretty big spring for him. But Omar Graham, who I think is going to have a stellar career at Florida State, ended up, I don't know. I mean, he should have been rated higher, you know, whatever, all the kind of recruiting sites, they do their thing. But this is a versatile defensive player at linebacker that Florida State needed. That was a true linebacker that they needed to bring in. And Omar Graham Jr., that's a true freshman coming in. But other than that, you know, the big guys like Kalen Deloach, you've got DJ Lundy, you've got Amari Gainer, Stephen Dix Jr., who really needs to have a big spring. If there's two guys in this linebacker room that need to have a big spring, it's Gainer and Stephen Dix Jr. And really, I think it's more for Gainer figuring out, and maybe it's for the staff too, on figuring out how they want to utilize him. I think they still need to use him for pressure reasons, but you know, those two need to have a big spring. And I would like to see Stephen Dix Jr. get into a groove because it was kind of a surprise last year where you got to see Lundy jumping into that role over Stephen Dix. So two, you know, Lundy and Stephen Dix Jr. both impressive in size. Those are linebacker guys. You know, the size is there. It's just really getting their hips, being able to go out in coverages, which they got, you know, bullied with last year. And then Kalen Deloach was big time impressive player last year. And, you know, that's LB1. You know, him and Bethune, I think, are going to be a great tandem in that second level defensive group, because Kalen, man, was making plays last year, great tackler, really brought down, I mean, some of the biggest hits last year were from Kalen, and I thought he had a huge year. He's moving to number 4 with the jersey change, but big time. That was something really bright that Florida State needed, and getting Kalen Deloach in his groove and getting a guy that has a lot of special talents and getting him into the rotation, not only in rotation, but starting, and it ended up being one of the most improved players last year, if not the most. So between him and offensive lineman Darius Washington on the offensive side. So absolute big time to have Kalen Deloach into his really true second year of being a starter at linebacker. But, you know, there's a lot of expectations, like you said, Mark, for Tatum Bethune coming from UCF, tackle machine. You know, I think Fuller likes that. He likes guys that like to tackle and make plays east and west. And that's something Tatum Bethune can do. And he puts himself in the right spots to cause takeaways, which Florida State did a really good job last year. They were significantly better. And so Bethune only just adds to that, to guys that, you know, in that linebacker room that can kind of go east to west and make the tackles. So there's a lot to like about this group. A lot of guys with experience coming back, and so just guys got to stay healthy too. That's something that we'll keep an eye on this spring.
Tatum Bethune, a guy that can shed some blocks. He got to 108 tackles last year, 5.5 tackles for loss, couple sacks, couple picks.
Yeah,
he's a player. Stat sheet.
Yeah, he's a player, and also getting to see him Tuesday morning, then also Saturday in practice. You know, I had to sometimes check the roster because, you know, that's an excuse I get the first day of practice. Sometimes numbers I can't. I'm like, wait a second, I don't know who this. I don't know. And I'm usually like, oh wow, the guy is the size. He's impressive, and I'm like, who is this? And I'm like, oh, that's Tatum Bethune. Yeah, that does make sense, and he is a linebacker, and that's something Florida State is doing. I should have mentioned it earlier, but really getting to see in the trenches guys coming in with some size. You know, Coach Storm's working on these guys, developing them, and you get to see it going from level to level, defensive tackle, linebacker. Now you can really see some size starting to build some SEC kind of size, bringing that Florida State size back to what it used to be, like Christian Jones and Nick Moody, who would just come down and lay your head off. So I'm starting to build that size back, which I like. You know it, Mark. I'm always on here about these guys got to get bigger. These guys got to get bigger. And it's slowly making that change, which is huge.
Absolutely. So we got a linebacking core that was good last year, but man, they all come back and they play together, and then you add Bethune, and they should only get better.